Hey movie fans, this is Moon Movie Review. I'm Travis Moon. Today's review is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Did you get that? Sweet. Today's review is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, starring Shameik Moore, Jake Johnson, Hailee Steinfeld, as well as several others. As usual, I will give you a short non-spoiler review followed by my recommendation on whether or not I believe this is a must-see or a wait-for DVD. Then I will give you a spoiler warning before we move into a full movie review, where today I'm joined by my best friend Kevin Kane, who is my go-to guy for all comic book related cinema. Together we'll give you our likes and our dislikes. We'll give you the 4-point rating system, which I like to call the breakdown, and then we'll let you guys take it from there. Cue intro! This film is the adventure-filled story of Miles Morales as he becomes the Spider-Man of his universe. After an experiment conducted by an infamous crime boss goes wrong, other Spider-Men, Spider-like individuals or whatever are pulled from their universe and into this one. Together they help Miles find his way as the newest Spider-Man in the ever-expanding Spider-Verse. This film brings the animation and the comic book style of storytelling to the big screen. This movie is full of adventure, overcoming adversity, comedy, and it also brings in family matters and everyday struggles in along with it. I definitely recommend going to see this movie on the big screen in theaters. I do not recommend waiting for DVD on this one, as this will be a movie that the whole family will enjoy, and this will be one to remember. Many critics are actually calling this the best Spider-Man and perhaps even the best Marvel film that has been released yet. If you enjoy watching movies or TV, then click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you can stay up to date with cinema. Stay to the end of this review so that you can see what movies or TV shows that I'll be reviewing next, and you can stay up to date with me by following me on Twitter or Facebook at Moon Movie Review. Today I've got with me Kevin Kane, who's my best friend and my go-to guy for all comic book related cinema. Kev, you there?
I'm here. Hello, movie watchers and true believers. How's it going tonight?
Okay, so before we get into specifics, Kev, give us your thoughts, your general thoughts on this film.
So, this movie was, dare I say, a perfect comic book movie. Like anything, as far as me as a fan of just comics in general, stories, this was just so much fun, and it was like unadulterated, such a an ode to comic books, even from like the opening pan. I read an article with Sir Kevin, his master of nerdom. I didn't even think about it until he mentioned it, but it opens the scene with the decal for like the comic books, the rating board. Like, that is what that sets off the tone, right? This is a comic book movie, and you might not know what that is, but I do. But it's so second nature to me that I didn't even think about it. But this movie is just a lot of fun. It's amazing that we can watch another version of Spider-Man and not be bored at this point, right? Because like how many Spider-Man movies have there been, right? Like we're getting close to 10, maybe more, and this was still fun. Good story, good acting, action-wise, animation-wise. Like it's just, you keep listing all the good things. Like this movie was awesome. And once I saw that trailer a while back, I was like, no, I'm in, I'm all in. Like this is all, I'm all about this. In a year where Black Panther, which is, nominations for awards, where Infinity War came out, and the awesome culmination of that whole project Marvel's been doing, this might be the best comic book movie of the year. Like, if you were to tell me that this is, I would not argue. I would be like, I respect that decision.
That's cool.
So overall, those are my thoughts. This movie was great. It was awesome. Go watch it. If you have kids, watch it. Like, they even get into it. I mean, that's a plot point. We'll talk about it later. But this is a movie you should watch with your kids if you have kids. And if you don't have kids, maybe you should have kids so you can watch this movie.
So tell me and the other movie watchers a little bit about each of the characters that are in this film. Because as you know, I'm not the biggest comic book reader. So I did not realize that there were this many Spider Men slash women slash individuals slash robots that were out there. I especially did not know that there was a Spider Pig in another universe.
So one of the first ones I want to talk about was, first off, Miles Morales. He's the main character of this movie, and I think that was a bold choice in the sense that most people know Peter Parker. So when you're starting off as your main character not being Peter Parker, in fact, you kill him off really in the movie.
Right.
Like that was a very bold choice.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting myself.
So Miles Morales has been around since, let's see, I think they started a comic book run called the Ultimate Universe. Basically, there was a lot of baggage that the current history came up with in comic books, and they were kind of like, we're going to reset it. We'll reboot it, and we'll call it the Ultimate Marvel, and we'll tell their origin stories fresh and new. So they had the Ultimate, like Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men. So it was just kind of like right around when, and I read a few of these when I was a kid, but right around high school, they reset the universe. And I actually, unfortunately, stopped reading before Miles took over for Peter. If I had kept reading, that would have happened. But his origin is very much the same. He witnesses Spider-Man, Peter Parker dying. He gets inspired by it. He gets bit by a spider, and he goes on to become Spider-Man. The key differences that I thought were interesting in that one, it seems like all Spider-Man have to have someone die, and it's a little funny, not really funny, but it kind of is funny to me in a morbid sense is when there's that one scene when they're like, well, we all have someone that died. And I was like, I guess if you're going to be Spider-Man, you got to have someone die. And that's classic hero's journey. Like even Bambi, like you go to all the Disney movies, like almost all of them have a parent that dies. And so in the comics, it was his mom that died. Her name's Rio. And so they changed it in this one to be his uncle dying, which is interesting because in the comics, from what I looked up earlier, is that his uncle trains him a bit because his uncle is the Prowler. So that's the same thing. So he ends up becoming Spider-Man. He gets super popular. Everyone loves him. So that's I really like that character, and it was cool to see him live action wise. Like I was like, awesome. That was a good choice. My next, and maybe arguably my favorite, was Spider-Gwen. So from a universe where instead of Peter Parker getting bit by a spider, Gwen Stacy gets bit by the spider, and instead of Gwen dying, Peter dies. Because in the original Spider-Man story, one of his first girlfriends is Gwen Stacy. She killed by Green Goblin, much like in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, if you remember that movie. That's almost straight from the comics, like from the clock tower falling down. He thought he saved her, but he didn't. So this is a universe where, oh no, Gwen gets bit, Peter dies. So this is her spider story. That one came out. That one was made just for the Spider-Verse. Yes, for the Spider-Verse comic. So that didn't exist until that comic book became an idea. So that's relatively new idea. Then we get Spider-Ham. Just a funny one for me. That was started that one in 1983 in a anthropomorphic universe where everyone is an animal type thing. And it was kind of just like a funny one shot, right? And so that was in 83. And then they came to Spider-Verse comic book and they're like, well, we'll bring back that guy. That'll be fun. And so they threw him in. The interesting thing when I was reading up about him, because I never read that comic because I wasn't born in 83, he was actually a spider who got bit by
a pig.
Aunt May, who's a pig, and then turned into Peter Parker. Which I was like, I thought no, but so they're having fun up there, man. These one shots are cool. Spider Noir, set in 1933, Great Depression era. So it's like, what would Spider-Man be like if he was in the Great Depression? That was around 2010 when that came out. So that was out before the Spider-Verse comic book run. So that one kind of existed. So they're just getting all these ideas for that comic book run, much like this movie, right? Like they're thinking about all these characters that they can bring in. So the one I didn't know about was Penny Parker. And actually, just to make it easier, because the name of that character, the spider tank or spider mech, is SP//VR. That's the official name of it. So, and I read up on her. She's a Japanese kid who got adopted by Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And she is a bit by spider. Actually, her spider is sentient and is super powerful and is in the robot and controls it, but they have a mental link. So that's how that Spider-Man in that universe is kind of going. So I mean, it's an awesome cast that they brought together. Like, and it's so quirky. And what I love most about it is, first off, the animation in this movie is fantastic, and we can talk more about it later. But what I will bring in is that you have the normal standard animation for the movie. Then you have Penny Parker, who's an anime character, and very anime animation. And you got Peter Porker, who's very much like a Looney Tunes 2D animation that's thrown in there. And then you have Spider Noir in its own little version where wind's always blowing because it's Spider Noir. And this movie, from what I hear, costs about $90 million to make. And you can tell from the animation in this movie that they went all out. And it took a long time. I don't have the date on me, but a lot of these, those were those characters. And this is set in the universe, Miles Morales' universe. So interesting changes are Dr. Octavius is a woman, Olivia, I believe her name is. The other cool thing is Goblin is a mutant, pretty much, not a dude with a mask on. He's like bioengineered to be what he is. Scorpion is a Hispanic gentleman, opposed to just a white dude from New York, which he was in the normal universe. And Kingpin's Kingpin. They didn't change too much except for his backstory, which was interesting, and we could talk about it later. But this is chock full of characters. Oh yeah, and I forgot the Prowler, the uncle. He's a pretty big deal in Miles' story, and they kind of expand on it in the movie too. If you remember Homecoming, I don't know if you watched that, Spider-Man Homecoming, Donald Glover plays that character. And whether or not he comes back later in the MCU, who knows? But that's who that is. So what's exciting about that is he's in the MCU. Does that mean Miles Morales is in the MCU? Shit gets exciting.
So, a couple minutes ago, I think you said your favorite character was Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman. She calls herself Spider-Woman at one point in the movie, but I believe her actual title is Spider-Gwen.
I think, and I don't know this for sure, but so when I remember hearing about her getting really popular, it's Spider-Gwen, and I think it just might be a nickname that maybe the fans kind of have. I think officially her title that she puts on her business card is Spider-Woman, if we're all honest. I just like Spider-Gwen.
I like Spider-Gwen too. So she's your favorite character. Tell us why she's your favorite one in the film.
This particular movie, why she was my favorite was, it's just fun to see her at live action. It's like Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen are very close, but the fact that this character started off as like, we're going to add this character to the comic book run, Spider-Verse, and they got to flesh her out finally, right? So Miles Morales has had comic book runs, and he's been around for a while. Gwen has had her own run recently. I haven't read it, but being able to see her live action and just see how confident and strong and just cool she is, and she ends up getting that haircut with like half her head shaved. Like, just, I love the look, I love the style, I love the attitude. She was just like, if there was expectations for each character, she was the one that met them completely. And now that I'm thinking more about it, I'm like, I still think Spider-Man, edges it, but that moment at the end of the movie when Miles makes his own suit and just starts doing his thing is pretty awesome. Like, from that point in the movie, it was like you're in a roller coaster, you're just strapped in, you're just like, this is fun. Get on this ride, we're about to have some fun. But that's just a character I've always been interested in, so it's kind of exciting for me to see her in a live action. That's kind of why I dug the actress that portrayed her too, like the writing for that character as well. Like, I I just like her. I dig her.
So my least favorite part about this movie was how they brought in so many characters into one story. You know me, Kev, I'm a background guy. I love the history and the story of each character so that I can figure out how to relate to that character. But when you bring so many characters into one story, you don't have enough time to go into the background and the history of all these characters and develop them. So for me, I probably would have left an open ending to the story, so that we could go through a couple of the characters in this film and then bring in a couple other characters in the next film and go through their history and their background in another film. So, Kev, tell us, what was your least favorite part about this film?
Where the hell did Green Goblin go after the beginning of the movie? Do you remember?
Good question.
Like, he's there, right?
No, I do not.
He was fighting, and then they're like, we don't need the giant monster anymore to help us out. I mean, there is 5 Spider-Men, but Greeny, just chill. We got this. We got the octopus lady. It's fine. The interesting thing about, and then that kind of goes into your point though, because the Green Goblin, of course, is Norman Osborn, and he's a huge character in that universe, or in general for Spider-Man lore. He's always a big antagonist, and he's just kind of gone. I don't think it hurt the movie at all, but you're right. Like these movies, I will say on a positive note that each time you're introduced to a new Spider character, you get that little snippet of the same thing. Like, well, here's like, I'm Spider-Man. My name's Peter Parker. This is my origin story. And it's real quick and snappy, right? It's not drawn out. Maybe the first one's a little bit long, but after that, they know they have to hit that sweet spot of like, oh yeah, this is a new Spider-Man. Here's his little origin story, and because that's like a solution for the heroes. And I know, I think your favorite character was Spider-Noir. So you get his background, but we don't get more. And that is a bummer if you wanted to know more about the character. But in a lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, when it comes time to explaining the characters, the antagonists, they oftentimes don't have them fleshed out. A lot that might be a consistent negative of all those movies. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Is the bad guy learning about his motivations. They just sometimes don't explain everything or have time to explain everything. And I imagine when you're building stories like this, you have Miles' backstory, you have Peter Parker's B. Parker's backstory. You introduce Spider-Gwen, who's hanging out before. You introduce all the other Spider-Man, and when it comes time and you're looking at cutting the movie, the bad guy's backstory might be what you cut first, and it kind of logically makes sense. As a fan, it's a bummer, but I kind of get it.
It's funny you say that because I actually didn't catch that when I watched it, but you're totally right. He's actually employed by Kingpin in the beginning, and then when Spider-Man is dead, it's like Kingpin just fired him for whatever reason. He doesn't come back. That's a good catch, man. I didn't see that.
All right, so my favorite parts of the film were, number one, actually how they brought the comic book style to the big screen. You know, you could actually see the little dots and stuff on their faces, and you know, the way the text would show up on the screen, you know, at random times, like what he was thinking or what he was saying. I mean,
Thought bubble.
yes,
Thought bubble.
bubbles.
If you edit it later, put a thought bubble right here. Right.
Okay, I'll put one there for you. Actually, I thought it was probably one of my funniest parts was in the beginning of the film, when he's running from the security guy, and he's like, "Play dumb." He's like, "Who's Morales?" And he's like, "Not that dumb." I thought it was perfect. My second favorite part is I really enjoyed the dialogue. I think actually out of most, so I don't read that many comics, as you know, so I can't say how most comics are written, but I feel like they're written for a particular type of person, and I felt like this film was written for everybody. I feel like anybody could watch the film, whether you read comic books, whether you don't, whether you're a kid, whether you're a teenager, whether you're an adult. I feel like everyone could laugh, everyone could understand like the relationship between father and son, you know, nephew and uncle. I felt like the whole dialogue of this film was great for all audiences.
Yeah. in case in point, like a perfect example of that would be something that you and me would get because of when we were bored. The Looney Tunes reference right at the end, whenever Spider-Ham was like, "That's all, folks," and then Peter B. Parker's like, "Can you say that? I don't think we can legally say that." And I laughed. And we're of the age demographic that would get that, but like a kid that was sitting next to me, unless his dad makes him watch Looney Tunes, way over his head. That was not funny to him. But they added it in, and it was quick. It was perfect. Like, it helped. It was like they always like made sure to make nods for every demographic this movie is made for. And I think it's great. Like, it's PG, right? Like, I'd watch it again. I'd bring my dad. I'd bring my little cousin. Like, they would enjoy it. This is a movie that anyone can enjoy.
Yeah. So probably my last favorite thing and my most favorite thing, I think most emotionally speaking, you're rooting for the underdog, but at the same time, as an older person, not a child, I'm also like, I feel right alongside Peter B. Parker's character and Spider-Gwen's character with like, come on, he's just not ready yet. Like he's so afraid right now, and he can't figure out what he's doing and how to go about it. Of course, this is the main plot of the story, of course. So, it may be cliche to say that it's probably my most favorite part, but I think everyone loves a good story where, and I think all spider individuals, spider-like people, have to figure this out. You know what I mean? And they probably all have an underdog story.
You could tell, like, when they saw him going, there was kind of a look of like, man, I remember we've been through that. We know what you're going through, but we don't have time for you to do this right now. Like, we need to go. Everyone else had their time to get their licks in, get their wet behind their ears, get their training on their own. So it's an interesting dynamic for Miles, who is becoming Spider-Man on top of this multi-universe thing, on top of adding the stress of the fact that if he feels like he let the original Spider-Man die, which is a huge motivation for him in this movie, where he felt like he could have done something to save the original Spider-Man, but he was a kid, right? He wanted to run, and completely understandable. But that ends up inspiring him. He can't let another Spider-Man die. He says it in the movie, and I mean that's the point you're bringing up, the underdog story. Peter Parker, or the character of Spider-Man and Peter Parker, the reason, and many people have said it before me, and many people will say it after me, but the reason he's so popular is because you can picture yourself under that mask. He's just a guy like you and me. There's nothing special about him besides the powers, but like, if you got those powers, put that mask on, you could do it too. And I feel like that is one of the main reasons why Spider-Man is so popular to this day. He's been popular since the 1960s. He continues to be popular now. If you look up merch sales, he has the most merchandise sold all over the place. It's why we can reboot him 3 times until we finally get him right. And people are willing to go along that ride. It's a very relatable character. And like you're saying, the underdog story is something we can also identify with. There's a reason why this character is popular. And it goes in line with what you were saying about the underdog story. Like, this movie just kind of encapsulates that and highlighted it, and it did it great. Like, the story, like you were saying, is awesome.
Sweet.
Okay, fans, here's the breakdown. Kev, start us off. Rate the writing of this film for us.
This movie's written really well. Like you were saying, dialogue between the different dialogue each character had, the special scenes the scenes that made me feel like I cried like twice in this movie. The writing in this movie is spectacular, and top marks is what I would say. Top marks, sir.
I give the writing an 8, as I really loved the comedy and I really loved the dialogue, but I just wish we got more background and history of all of the characters that were in the film. Okay, Kev, cinematography, go.
Okay. And it's interesting in the animated movie where there is no camera per se, but it's still very much the same skills have to be there.
It is.
So I think, first off, top marks, let's just go ahead and add it on there. But I want to give them extra credit, because when you have to incorporate Every little pow, blam, every little thought bubble, anytime I hit something, I don't know if you noticed, like there was always like an action, little arrows or little lines. Like they have to think about all this while they're shooting it. So this must have been a difficult job, and they nailed it. And then the best part, my favorite scene is when Miles Morales becomes Spider-Man. That whole sequence when he has a hoodie on, he's flying through town, and just so good. Like this is top marks, my friend. Top marks. They did an amazing job from that standpoint, cinematography.
I'm going to give the cinematography a 10 out of 10, as I thought they did a fantastic job really bringing the story, the comic book style of storytelling to the big screen. It was beautiful. It was awesome. I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, next is the acting. Kev, how do you think the acting was in this film?
I can't think of a negative at all. Like from the voice actors they chose to the performance of those voice actors, top marks, my friend. Top marks. They did an amazing job.
I'm actually going to give it a 10 out of 10 for acting as well, as personally I think it takes quite a bit of talent for a voiceover actor to match the mannerisms of the character that they're trying to portray. Especially with Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker in this film. I thought he was fantastic. Okay, last one, directing. Kev, what are your thoughts on the directing of this film?
So the way when I think about directing, since it's such a managerial type job, the amount of work to go in to make this movie is what it is had to be a tough job. And you might have it in front of you right now, but I think it's more than one director, correct?
It is.
Okay, so a team director for this kind of movie makes sense to me because there's so much going on at one time. The voice acting, the story, how you want it to be portrayed, and on top of the animation, which ends up being like the large chunk of what made this movie, was the editing of this animation. And I heard I forgot the article that said it, but it's something like a minute of this movie took a week, or something ludicrous like that, of just re-editing, right? And putting over and like getting it right. So directing from a standpoint of just pure effort and nailing it, top marks. Directing for this movie was awesome.
I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 for directing as well. I actually don't think that you need to be familiar with the history of the Spider-Verse or of these characters to really watch and enjoy this film. Whether you're a kid, an adult, married, single, I think anyone that goes to watch this film is going to enjoy themselves and have a great time. So overall, Kevin gives this film a 2 thumbs up because you did a terrible job at doing the breakdown. So thanks for that. But as for me, movie watchers, this film is going to get a 9.5 out of 10. Great job. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope this helps you with your movie watching endeavors. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'd love to open up a discussion about this film. My next review will be Mortal Engines, so check back soon, and I'll see you guys on the next one. This film is the adventure-filled story. It is the adventure-filled story of Miles Morales.
One real quick. You can add this into the bloopers if you want, but that end credits little screen in memory of Stan Lee.
Yeah.
I cried.
Did you?
Yeah, I cried. And I wonder how long they had planned that, right? Like, at what point were they making the movie that they had to shove that in, you know? Mm-hmm. And on top of the fact, I can get into this later. I'm not going to ruin it. Okay, continue. Like, one of my favorite bits was he's distracting Dr. Ock, and Miles is trying to get away with the computer, and he catches up with him. He's like, well, good news is we don't need a monitor. Yeah. Because he's been carrying the monitor with him the whole time. You wonder the success of this movie, how much money it brings in, the popularity of it, and awesome rave reviews it's getting. You wonder if they're going to make another one. And actually, I heard they're already planning on making a Spider-Gwen-centric movie, which I'm stoked for. That sounds rad. But yes, I do agree with your criticism. That if they were, but so, my negative thing is kind of along with your negative thing. Like, what happened to Green Goblin? Where did he go? I kind of like him. He's gone. No explanation. No, like, well, he's gonna go to a spa or something. Writing in this movie, spectacular. I think, and that's a pun for you guys in comic books. Spectacular Spider-Man. It's not a pun. It's actually just a reference. Anyways, I will continue. I'm a bad on the spot writer.
That's going in the bloopers.
I am also giving the directing a 10 out of 10. I think you don't need to know any of the background stories of or read the comic books of. Now I'm just getting all choppy. I hope you enjoyed this view, and I hope this view. Yeah, you enjoyed this view of me. Yeah, this is my sexy side. No, this is my sexy side. I don't have a sexy side. I'm actually going to give it a 10 out of 10 of acting for well. For well? That just doesn't make any sense. Use English. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope this helps you on your movie watching endeavors. Leave a comment section in the comment section below. You can't leave a comment section in the comment section. Maybe you can, but I don't know how to do that. So don't leave a comment section in the comment section. Just leave a comment.
And I mean, case in point, in the movie, he gets his fire powers. He grows, I guess, about 3 inches. Right, is what his pants like just taller. Which whatever, spiders are tall. I don't know, but and then he gets his hair stuck on Gwen Stacy's his hand was stuck on her hair, right? And he doesn't know how to undo it, right? He doesn't know how to spider. So it just reminds me of like embarrassing stories I had when we were in school, right? Like, and if I can bring an anecdote to the table, like there was this one time, and I won't use the person's, I'll use a different name. Let's call her Nancy. I had a huge crush on Nancy, and I finally got her to go out with me, and it was like the best day ever, right? Like it was the best day of my life. This is in middle school, right? And I remember even a bit like where I got her like a little rock. I was like, oh, she'll love this, and I like left her in her locker. It was such a mess, and she ends up breaking up with me like before second period, and I was devastated. I was in English class with her, and I was crying. Everyone's looking at me. She's crying. I'm crying. Teacher comes over. You okay? I was like, this is the moment where I don't want you to talk to me, teacher. Like I'm going through some stuff, and I know it was probably all over school that Kevin freaking cried all day at school. Like you might even remember those stories because I don't think you were in that class with me. But this reminds me of what he goes through, like all the frustrations, the awkwardness, and his uncle teaching him how to talk to ladies and stuff. Like there is a reason why the Spider-Man and Peter Parker and Miles Morales, these characters are so touching to us and why we enjoy them. It's because they remind